Hi, this is Dodger, and you're watching my show.
3, 2, 1, ready, go!
Pretty cool new intro, right? Danny's the best. He's working on an anime one too. It's gonna be quality. But hopping into gaming news, let's talk about Zelda Breath of the Wild. I'm not gonna spoil you on anything. There's no spoilsies here. We're just gonna talk a little bit about speedrunning, actually. Because, all right, so there are 2 new best speedruns of Zelda Breath of the Wild, and I think more and more people are starting to finish the game, you know, so they're able to actually sit and watch a speedrun and enjoy it and not feel like it's ruining their life. But basically what happened is one person got the under an hour mark, and the second person got a little bit less, but used an amiibo. For those of you who don't know, this isn't a spoiler. This isn't a spoiler. You can use amiibos in Zelda Breath of the Wild in order to get certain items. One of the items is a horse. But basically, either way, in order to complete the speedrun in time, you have to get a horse, right? You have to get a horse somehow. So is it cheating to use something like an amiibo, which is arguably like rare and an extra thing that you have to buy, right? It's like a gate. So is that kind of like cheating? Some people believe that it is, that it's kind of like using a cheat code almost. It's like, no, if you had taken the time to type in a code that gave you a horse, it would have been the same thing and we still would have been upset about it. But other people are saying, yeah, but amiibos have been part of the ecosystem for a couple of consoles now for Nintendo, right? So if you use an amiibo, that's perfectly acceptable because it's part of like the actual Nintendo thing. I think it's a little weird because like I was saying before, what's strange about amiibos is a lot of them are rare. Like it's hard to find certain ones, right? There's like an economic barrier there where it's, well, I'm not playing Skylanders. Like I don't want to buy a ton of these things in order to do a speedrun. One of the things that's awesome about speedruns is it's about like either breaking the game or figuring out how to do it quickly, legitimately. And I think adding amiibos into it creates a barrier for people who want to get into speedrunning, and that's kind of sad to me. But either way, the person who has the fastest speedrun right now used an amiibo. So, however you feel about that. If you're planning on playing Conan Exiles on Xbox One, unfortunately, it's not going to be quite as much of a sausage party as maybe you expected. It has been made very clear to the team that's putting together Conan Exiles that they are going to run into a lot of problems if they allow dickles in their game. Not on PC, obviously. Like, that's... do what you want. But the team that's kind of their counterpart in Japan has said, no, if you have penises in the game, it's going to be banned. People won't be able to play it. So I guess they just made the choice and said, all right, well, we'll just make it so that there are no dickles in the game. But they have yet to ask about breasts, I think because they're a little worried. They're like, maybe we just shouldn't ask and see how it goes. Because there are games on Xbox One with boobies, so it should be fine. I personally don't really care about whether or not the game has nudity in it. I played it with no nudity because I didn't want... I don't know, I didn't know what the whole Twitch feel for that game was at the time that I played it, that I streamed it, so I was like, well, I'm just gonna cover up all the naughties, because I don't want, anybody accusing me of going against terms of service or whatever. A lot of people streamed it with everything hanging out, and that was totally fine. But for me, it's not like a make or break thing. Like, it's not like, oh my gosh, if there aren't wangs everywhere, then I don't even want to play it. But for those of you who are like, no, that's the whole reason for me to play the game. I think that PC is going to be the place to play this game anyway, because they've already, like we've talked about in a past episode, they've already given modders tools to be able to add mods into the game. They're already being... that conversation window is already open with mod teams. So I think that the game is going to be really, really fun to play on PC because it's going to be constantly evolving, not only from the actual team, but also from modders. So if you were like trying to decide which one to try it out on, I would say absolutely go PC. But if you want to just kind of like casually play it and you don't really want any adjustments to the way that they're going to make the game, then I guess Xbox One would be totally fine. You just won't have winglings. Those poor, sweet winglings. Cough it up. For any of you who've been wondering what Harmonix has been working on, they're developing a card game. To be fair, it's a card game where all of the cards have like little fibers in them that speak to an electronic base that you put the cards on. The game is called Drop Mix. According to people who have like beta tested this game, it's actually super fun. It works kind of like other traditional card games might, where there are like different classes of cards, almost Magic the Gathering style. Like you could have, reggae cards, and you could also have hip hop cards, and you could try to like mix them together. And basically, you're battling the DJ of the game. I don't know. I think that it sounds kind of fun. Here's the bummer, though. Of course, they were like, well, you use your phone, and then there are the cards, but there's also the base, and like all of the cards have like electronics in them. So, $99? Man, $99? Really? Everybody says it's been real fun to like test this game out, but $99, I don't know about that. I do think that some people will buy this, but it's gonna be really niche, right? I would love to just play it, but am I interested enough to shell out $99 in order to like try it out and see if it's any good? No. So what they really need to do is make an effort to circulate this, to have it playable at a lot of places, conventions, like wherever they can, because nobody's gonna look at this and be like, yeah, right? It just looks like Ascension, but all of the imagery on the cards is like drums and things. So it's like, I just don't see this working out for them unless they do a lot of hustling in terms of their PR. It's probably super fun, and it's not that I'm not willing to take, the beta testers' words on that. It's just that you don't know how it feels to play until you've played it. And for something like this that looks so basic, I would need to sit down and play it before I wanted to actually spend the money. So we'll see. We'll see whether or not it does well. I guess that there are gonna be lots of different card packs, of course, coming out. It's not going to be like Ascension in that you could just like buy the game and be like, cool, I have all of the cards. Apparently there are going to be lots of different card packs instead of like, here's the base game and here's, like a expansion. Speaking of taking somebody's word for it, Steam has adjusted the way that they do their reviews yet again. This time doing something that I think is actually kind of bizarre. They've decided that if you didn't pay for the game, you cannot leave a review. Now, at face value, some of you are going to say, that's a great idea, right? Because some of us, like me, right? This guy, some of us are sent codes for free. And so there's like a feeling of bias there where you could say, yes, I got this game for free. The developers reached out to me, right? And sometimes that will skew the way that you actually review a game. But here's like the underneath layer when I read this. Okay, so at this point, we have a lot of people who get codes through kind of third-party areas. Sometimes they're terrible. Not gonna say any names of any companies. Sometimes they're terrible places to get codes, right? But sometimes it's like Humble Bundles, for example, a place where you're going to buy a bundle of games, you're going to be given a bunch of codes, and then you're going to activate that product inside of Steam. Now, does that mean that the way that Steam knows whether or not you are able to write a review for a game is whether or not you actively bought the game through the Steam system? Because I don't think there's going to be any difference between somebody getting a code in a third party and then activating the product, and me getting emailed a code and activating the product. The process is exactly the same. So does that mean that there are going to be all kinds of people who legitimately have spent money in order to get games and get codes and won't be able to review? Because that seems silly. Now, to be fair, they might have a way to get around this, right? They might make it so that there are some codes that have like a little ding on them. I don't know. I have no idea. But when I read this, I was like, I don't think this is gonna work. Because in your efforts to make it so that the reviews for these games are more accurate, more honest, you're taking out tons of people who could give feedback. And with more feedback, you get an actual more well-rounded idea of whether or not the game is good. So if you're taking out like hundreds of people who got codes another way, isn't that going to affect the actual reviews like negatively? You won't have nearly as much data. So some people think that this is a great idea. Some people think that this is a terrible idea. Personally, I think I understand both sides. I'm that kind of a person. I understand both sides. I get where they're coming from and why they think that this is a good idea, but I don't think that it's going to do what they want it to do. Blizzard has banned tons of oh my god. I just realized a joke that I should have put in the Conan section. I should have ended the whole thing with, what a dick move. All right, just pretend. Just pretend that the Conan section ended with me going, man, what a dick move. Anyways, so what were we talking about? Blizzard, right. So Blizzard has actually banned tons of top tier raiders. Why, you ask? Because they were trading dungeon runs for real world dollars, which is extremely against their terms of service, and they have honestly let it go on for a really, really long time. They finally decided to take down the people who were really blatant about it, right? These people would put thousands of hours into their characters, but were really openly knowing the terms of service. We're really openly just like, hey, anybody want to pay me for a dungeon run? Huh? Anyone? They figured this was the way to really get the point across. Like, okay, we're gonna take down these dudes who are so obvious about it, right? Who are just like not even trying to hide that they're going against our terms of service. But we will be looking into people who are doing it more on the sly. So really think about whether or not you want to be doing this. And some of you might say, I don't understand, what would be the point of paying somebody to like take you through a dungeon? There are achievements, there are mounts. Like, I'm assuming that these are people who have still spent a decent amount of time in WoW, but just aren't quite at the level to be able to do these like really high tier dungeon runs. So they pay somebody else with real world dollars, pay somebody else to take them through the dungeon so that they get all of those achievements and that gear and those mounts, you know, right? When it comes to why Blizzard put this off for so long, the only thing that I can think of is the token system, because it's finally really established itself as being worth it. You know, like you can utilize WoW Gold and exchange it in a way through the token system to be able to buy Overwatch loot crates, to buy Hearthstone packs, like all kinds of stuff, right? So making it so that WoW Gold is worth more across all of the properties, right? You can use WoW Gold to buy your subscription to WoW, those sorts of things. I think that they wanted to wait until that was really established so that they could say, why aren't you just doing these dungeon runs in exchange for WoW Gold? Like, why? Obvious answer being, I would like to pay rent with my dungeon run money, right? But like, operating within the terms of service bubble, it's like they're giving you lots of different ways that you can use WoW Gold now. So why not just stick to the rules and utilize that gold for these other things? They made it really clear in the press release, like you can go up to a bud and be like, yo, take me through a dungeon run, I'll give you some in-game gold. And they'll be like, dope. Perfectly legal. And with the token system, you can use your for reals money to buy tokens and then turn the tokens into WoW Gold. So, like, if you're sitting there going, but I have real fliff, but I don't have WoW Gold, you can exchange it. You can make that happen. You can make it happen for yourself. So watch your butts. If you're somebody who's been doing this for a while under the radar, like, watch your butt, man. Maybe stop. Maybe like settle down with a cow and a baby. I don't know. As a final bit of news, any of you who loved Shadow of Mordor and are really excited for Shadow of War, you probably loved the Nemesis system. Like, out of everything in that game, that's what people lauded the most. So, you'll be excited to know that the Nemesis system is getting expanded. It's becoming far more detailed, specifically on like a friendship side. So before, in Shadow of Mordor, you could turn orcs to your side, but they didn't really like do anything, right? So in this game, you can have your fierce rivalries with dudes, but you can also have like friendships, like legitimate bonds with orcs. Orcs can like or dislike one another. So if you have two orcs that are on the same team, they'll either like each other or hate each other. They could be like bros for life. You don't know. When you take over a fortress that is run by other orcs, you can put your orcs in there, but the way that it's run will be completely different based on which orc you choose to run it. It's like some pretty cool stuff. In Shadow of War, there are multiple orc tribes with different characteristics and specialities. For instance, the Feral tribe specializes in hunting, trapping, and using monsters in battle. Depending on which tribe an overlord orc belongs to, their fortress will be entirely different. That was from a big write-up that Kotaku did, so I'll link to that in the description. They got to see like a big demo and see how the game plays and all of the different types of interactions and stuff. It's really cool to read. So if you haven't checked out Shadow of Mordor before, you should try it before Shadow of War comes out, because it's a great game. But anywho, that's been my show. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a positive or a negative response, feel free to leave it in my comment section. And if you'd like to watch my streams, you can find them at twitch.tv/dexbonus, and you can find the VODs at youtube.com/dexteritybonus. Thank you all so much for watching. I'm sorry that we didn't have gaming news for a little hot minute there. But I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you're not subscribed, please hit subscribe if you enjoyed it and you think that I deserve it. And I'll see you next time, okay? Bye-bye. Mwah. Man, what a dick move.